Hey y'all, so this week we're focusing on shadows. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of how to know where to draw a shadow, and then we're going to draw a birch tree forest together. We're going to make it look like we did it on watercolor, even though we're going to do it in Sketches school. So here I have a really simple drawing. The line going through the middle is our horizon line, and our two sticks are going to be our trees, while the big yellow circle is our sun or our light source. Now we already know that the side closest to the light source will be lit up, and that's where our highlight will be. We also know that our shadow is going to be on the opposite side from our highlight or the opposite side from our light source. I'm going to show you another way of determining where the shadow goes, and I'm going to show you with my ruler. So I'm going to line up my ruler with the middle of our light source and the outside edge of our object that's going to be casting a shadow, and we're going to do both outside edges. And notice we have a perfectly drawn shadow. This also works with a tree that is farther away. But notice the angle of the shadow changes slightly. This is because the light source here in this example comes from my central point, and every time you move the location of the object, the shadow's angle will change slightly. And depending on how big the shadow is, not only depends on the object itself, but also how close or far away the object is from the light source. Now, of course, you don't have to get out a ruler every time you would like to try and draw a shadow. That's just there to help you. In fact, in the next part of this project, I'm going to sort of eyeball it and guesstimate where I think my shadow will be. So go ahead and open up a new page in Sketches School. If you open up this player in Safari and play it in YouTube and then hit the home button when you go out, you'll have a mini player at the bottom or top of your iPad where you can follow along and actually draw with me as the video plays. Now for the very first thing here, I'm deciding where I would like my horizon line to be, and I didn't want it to stand out very much in this drawing, so I actually made it gray instead of black, and you can use any pen tool to do this. After you decide where you would like your horizon line, go ahead and select the watercolor brush. It's the one in red on my screen right now. Make sure you change this brush to the largest size. It's going to make your sky look a lot neater and less splotchy. So for your sky, you can use any colors that you want to. Just make sure that you mix your colors and you're not just using the same color. Also notice that every time you pick up your finger, you're going to get a darker layer of color. I'm speeding up this process, but remember, if you need to pause the video anytime, you can. Also try to keep your sky lighter in color and don't go too dark with it. That means don't pick up your finger too many times. Now, I know you all love to smudge, so if you would like to smudge out any of your colors or blend them in anymore, you can. Just don't go too crazy with it. You would like to keep some of that texture in there. That's what makes this picture look more like watercolor. However, I did choose to smudge out my horizon line or to blend it in with my sky. We're going to come back later and trim this up. For the next step, go ahead and choose the spray tool. It's right above the ABC tool. Make sure you're on white for your ink and you're on the largest size. And then just tap your screen. This creates the same sort of effect than if you put salt on your watercolor paper and then brushed it off when it was dry. If you would like to clean up your horizon line, now is the time. Just take your eraser tool on the largest size and erase just barely underneath the sky. Now we're going to shade our snow on the ground in a very similar method that we use for the sky. So I'm using the watercolor brush and I'm using a light blue, and I'm just going to add a few streaks of light blue to the snow. When I'm done adding streaks, then I'll go back in and smudge it out with the smudge tool. Now we need to draw our trees. To do this, I'm going to use the paint roller tool on the most amount of paint, or the bottom square, and white ink. Because we're using white ink, it may be a little bit harder to see where I'm drawing the trees. Just make sure to watch for the dotted line that you see on the screen now. We're just going to start by drawing a simple tree shape, and it's okay for your tree to go all the way off the page. It's going to look like a bumpy rectangle. Oops, let me fix that. After you get a basic trunk shape, then you can try drawing in some limbs. Limbs are always kind of like bumpy triangles that are always pointing up. They're also smaller at the tip or farther away from the tree and wider at the trunk of the tree. Make sure you draw some trees up close and some trees farther away. To draw trees that look farther away, draw them higher up on the page and make them smaller. They can still go all the way off the page, but the width of the trunk needs to be smaller. Notice that I did not draw very many limbs, and I only drew 1 or 2 for the trees that are farthest away. Now for the most important part, our shadows. For this, I'm actually going to use a brown color in our paint roller tool. But first, a reminder. Do not draw this on your paper. It is just a reminder, or we're imagining that our light source is this circle, and I'm thinking about all the different ways the light would radiate out from this circle and what angle the light source would be from. So we are using the paint roller tool on the second top square with brown ink, and I'm going to start by just trying to draw a shadow away from that invisible circle. For the tree closest to the left that I'm drawing now, the shadow is going to go a little bit more straight down than sideways like the middle one. But they are close to the same angle. And this can be said for all of our trees. Now that we're done with our shadows, we need to add some last-minute details to our trees by giving them some bark. I am using the watercolor brush on black ink and on the smallest setting, and on the same side of the tree, I'm just going to give it some stripes, kind of like a zebra. On a little bit larger setting, you can go straight up and down the tree to create a shadow on one side. And don't forget to add a little bit of shading or details to the limbs too. For the trees in the back and a little bit smaller details, instead of using the watercolor brush, I'm going to use the pencil tool on the largest setting to create the same shadows and bark that we have on the front trees. When you are ready to download your picture, click the 3 little dots at the top of the screen, the box with the arrow pointing out, and Save Image. Then go ahead and upload your work to Seesaw. I can't wait to see it.